News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian with a holiday I think only Allan could really appreciate.
Oh, all right, I'm ready.
Happy National Diatomaceous Earth Day.
I don't know whether I want to celebrate or not. I don't even know what that word means.
It's important for everything.
It is oddly very specific. Yes.
And it's very important for any discussions for home improvement today.
How do you spell that one?
It is.
Okay, never mind.
Diatomaceous.
I already lost you halfway.
So give him the definition.
Diatomaceous Day. Okay.
Diatomaceous earth is an item that's used commonly in households that many of us are unaware of. It's used for everything from filtering swimming pools to controlling insects in gardens and even to clarify sugar in syrups.
It's a chemical?
It's everything.
That's too vague. Max, you're not good at giving me information.
It is a mineral extract.
A mineral extract. Okay.
Think of it like baking soda in terms of its versatility.
So it's the bacon of chemicals, or
yes, it is the bacon. It is the how would I say it? It's more like the all-purpose flour of home and landscape.
That's what I was saying. Baking soda, not bacon.
Yeah.
The name doesn't roll off the tongue, but okay, we'll go for that one. So, all right, Max, I'm sure shortly you're gonna give us more of a in-depth view of whatever this stuff is.
I'll tell you where it comes from and who discovered it first.
Okay, well, if you want to call in and chastise Max for coming up with these obscure holidays,
but it's important.
Exactly. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the one post I've made. I'm a little behind, Allan. I was flying last night, as you know, but
you were thunderstorm hopping.
We'll have it up there shortly, and check that out. But it's always a good idea anyway to get over to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, like the page, share the page, and join the Tool Talk Radio family. Speaking of that, I just want to say one quick thing, Allan. I am just gonna, I know they're not a sponsor or anything, but man, I haven't flown Delta Airlines in a long time.
Right.
They're a good airline, man. I don't know. I'm sure
they've got their act together on occasion.
One of my customers, in fact, the customer I'm working for in Midtown is a Delta pilot, but I was thoroughly impressed with their planes. They were very comfortable. We ran into travel challenges because of those storms, and they handled it with aplomb. They were really good, and there's just a noticeable vibe that I got from Delta. So I just want to give a big shout out to those guys. So, but Allan, okay, it's funny. Here we go. Once again, I showed you our page before we got started. Your week alone is gonna. I mean, we could get 2 weeks with material out of that. We had to selectively choose what we're going to talk about in Allan's week in review because it's just too much. So.
I had a big week.
But this is interesting. This one Allan selected for our great moments in building history. And when he first pitched the idea, I was like, this sounds very obscure. I'm sure he has his reasons, but he has good reasons for these. And we're going to discuss them when we get to it. We're talking about the first Dixie Cup factory, right? The original Dixie Cup factory. And probably I can already see people scrambling to their phones going, what relevance does this have?
It has massive. Thank you, Easton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So, hey, Pennsylvania again. That's 2 weeks in a row of
Did anything good come out of Pennsylvania?
This did.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
M. Night Shyamalan and that
all right,
recent
I'm not going
movie
to blame
was
him
really
for
good.
him.
No, it's good. So, we have a follow-up home security report, and we have to really thread the needle on this. We don't want to get sued, but hey, we just report the news. We're not, whatever.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Allan, are you into those try it before you buy it apps? I mean, we've seen these evolving. I think we first saw them with paint colors and things like that.
I started using those probably 20 some odd years ago.
I didn't know we had smartphones 20 years ago. So.
It wasn't on a smartphone. It used to be on something large on a desk called a computer. And you actually had a screen that you had to use. It wasn't 2 inches by 2 inches.
I gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yes. I used to lay out. Matter of fact, I still do a lot of landscape layout.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about that. Also, I got a lot here, Allan. So your week in review is pretty wide ranging. And a little later in the show, I did want to give a shout out to the city of Hernando, but it's also going to lead to a larger discussion, which is the evolution of a community. How do you go from I think of the city of Chicago. How do you go from a community where they're basically trading whatever beaver pelts and things with people to one of the biggest metropolises in the world? And I've watched the evolution of Hernando. I used to live in Hernando, as a matter of fact. So, but we're gonna turn it into a larger discussion. So, we got a lot here, Matt. But Max, I know you're dying to tell us more about this word that I can't pronounce. So,
diatomaceous earth. It's found as a sedimentary rock formation, and it's easy to crumble. And it's kind of a off-white powder, but it was used in ancient times in areas like Asia and ancient Greece. And because they didn't really know what it was, but they just knew that it worked. And so they used diatomaceous earth as like an abrasive and as building material for bricks. And they even use it for ice cave paintings in France.
Wait, do you dig it up? Is it what color is it? I'm really lost as to what
it looks like. Chalk. All right,
science time, Allan.
You know what limestone is, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, limestone is fossilized lime, aka coral and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right. Diatomaceous earth is fossilized diatoms. So instead of lime and calcium, it's silica.
Okay.
And microalgae.
And other cute little things like, emerald, quartz, clay, mica, feldspar, aluminum, basalt, any little material that these little critters can make their shells out of, it is now diatomaceous earth. And the really great thing about it is that it is a mild abrasive. It works really good there. It is also naturally very dry. And it has a lot of chemical properties, like the ability to filter.
Okay, now
here we go.
Somewhere.
Now we're getting
So
there.
wait, so let me just make sure I see this. So you got a bowl, or you got a big sifter of diatomaceous earth.
Right.
You pour something through it, and it'll filter out the whatever, and the clean stuff will
So all the
drain out the
solids
bottom.
and all of that, and the clean, all of the solids and anything capturable by the silica and the chemicals flows through. So diatomaceous earth is often used in filtration systems.
Isn't it funny how a lot of the positive stuff comes from things that are dead?
Yes.
Because diatomaceous earth is made out of dead microalgae, and their skeletons kind of corrode, and it's like, all right, this is actually pretty good. We're actually using something positive from something that was dead.
Well, Max, the earth is a giant recycling machine. I mean, that's what it basically is. So, yeah. Well, that's interesting. So I just wonder who the first discoverer of how far back.
No, Max got
knows.
that. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, like I said, ancient Greece, but the real discovery actually happened around 1836 in Germany by a man by the name of Peter Kasten. He discovered it while he was sinking into a well. And so he studied diatomaceous earth and noticed that it could absorb, filtrate, polish, and even stabilize things. And so he found the product. He liked the idea of this thing is in the earth. Why don't I try to capitalize on it and make money?
So the guy falls into a well. He's scrambling to get out. He finds his pockets full of diatomaceous earth. And instead of just tossing it aside, he saw an opportunity.
Yes.
You never know where opportunities are going to come from. Isn't that something? It's always interesting, the random.
While I was yelling, "Get me out of here!"
Yeah. And for all of your gardeners out there that have been screaming at your radio for the last 3 minutes, yes, it is also a nice pesticide because it is a mineral, and people will use this in their gardens to help keep down micropest. Small things.
I'm trying to figure out how it does that.
Well, it's a mineral. It has lots of tiny little sharp edges that's mildly abrasive. So your good old-fashioned, the slug doesn't want to crawl across it because, it hurts.
Oh, so it's like broken glass to a
Well,
to
if
an
you're
insect.
small enough, yes, it is like broken glass.
Okay, which is ironic because the other day on Facebook I saw a picture and it looked real, didn't look like AI. They were showing slugs crawling across the edges of razor blades.
Yep,
without
they
it
can.
hurt.
They can.
So they don't mind that, but they don't want to crawl across this stuff.
Well, they can slime the way across a small area. But, when you have to keep gooing it and gooing it and gooing it, you start running out of goo somewhere in there.
Okay.
So, yep.
Well, we're event planner. We plan events, folks. One of the things we're pretty good at it too. And the trick is always on these holidays of yours, Max. How do you properly celebrate? Like if you were planning a diatomaceous earth celebration, what's the appropriate way to do it?
Go repot those plants. Get out there and have you a little fun in the
That's
landscaping.
living on the edge.
Feed
Yeah.
your chickens because it's used in chicken feed. It's also used in alcohol. So for all your brewers out there, go ahead and brew using diatomaceous earth. Or if you're a gardener, go ahead and kill those bugs using diatomaceous earth.
Great. Yeah. Okay. I guess I wonder how we call our listeners to action on this one. So it's like, I don't know if anybody's ever celebrated this.
Look, I'm so happy to see rain after 6 weeks. I will be playing in the garden this afternoon.
Well, I was wondering about that too. And, we have to acknowledge we've had some power outages, Allan.
Yes.
And speaking of that, one of the things I didn't tease, which I think we should get to, we've had a very dry summer, right?
Oh, my
haven't
gosh.
we? I mean, we
had a dry August. Yeah, it was no water.
And now we're seeing power outages. We want to know what that portends for the winter ahead. So we'll probably touch on that too. We got a lot to get to today, folks, so strap in. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Good news, everyone! I'm in terrible pain.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I think it's because he drank diatomaceous earth.
Well, at least he's alive, and he appreciates it. And we'll come back to...
and he learned something.
Okay. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the action over there. So, Allan, we always have sort of a call to action for our listeners, and I don't think we've given them one today. Diatomaceous earth isn't cutting it. I'm sorry. So
It's all right.
okay,
But it cuts everything.
But I do want to know, in a bit, we're going to be talking about the Try It Before You Buy It app, which is basically, let's see what our house would look like in this color. I feel like the Try It Before You Buy It app has probably helped save a lot of people some suffering and things like that. So maybe our call to action is, what's a good try it before you buy it experience you've had? Did you find, or did you avoid disaster using it or something? But either way, so Allan, but we're going to shift gears into this conversation, which I was amazed how much you and Max were interested in this topic. So, a couple weeks ago, folks, I used to live in the city of Hernando, and I call it a city. I mean, technically it was a city, but I mean, I was living there back in the early 90s, basically.
Well, for those of you outside of Memphis, Hernando, Mississippi is a little south of Memphis.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Yep.
true. Yeah, Hernando, if you just jump on I-55, it's 20 minutes south
Drive straight
of
south, you will be there in no time.
Yeah, get off on, I think, Commerce Avenue. And it used to be, Allan, and I lived there as a missionary. I lived in the mission. I did mission work, and I drove all around the Delta, doing carpentry work to help the poor. It was pretty fun. It was actually a really fun experience. But when I lived there, Allan, it was, you could get anywhere you wanted. There was never traffic. It was very easy to get around. Well, I happened to be in that part of town, and I wasn't, I haven't been there in a long time. It's funny how places can change. But I went back in there, and now, Allan, Commerce Avenue is just, it's insane. It's just boom, 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 boom,
It is literally Commerce Avenue.
It's packed. There is so much growth, but it's not, there's a lot. It's not necessarily okay, well, here's a perfect example. I stopped and I had time for lunch, and I went to Waffle House, which is right there. It was the finest Waffle House experience I've ever had. It was very clean. Everybody was really nice. The service was fast. The food was awesome. And I'm like, okay, that's just one example. Even their Waffle House is awesome, right?
That reminds me of on Rescue 901. I was told by that seasoned cops say to avoid a certain Waffle House.
Well, there's always that one, but this one, even that was a good example to me. I'm like, if your Waffle House is that good, but what got me thinking about all this, Allan, is this week I was in Knoxville.
Okay.
And I just want to give a big shout out to Raphael. He was his AKA Genie. He was the Uber driver that got me around. We had a fun conversation. He's a former basketball player for UT, and this is a little side hustle he does. But we had some really good conversations, and actually that was probably my favorite part of the whole trip. And it's always funny how you have all these plans for a trip, and the most incidental things turn into your favorite moment. It's usually just about making a human connection. And Raphael was just a good dude. It was a lot of fun talking to him. But what happened, Allan, is I had 3 hours to kill in downtown Knoxville, and I came across this historic center in Knoxville, and they had all sorts of those giant photographs of like the city, what it looked like 100 years ago or during the Civil War, and it looks nothing like it does today. And then it got me thinking about Hernando, and I was just I was thinking about the evolution of a community. Why do some people gravitate to this? Why do they go to this little city versus that? And then, how does it evolve into something big? And you and Max were very interested in discussing the evolution of cities and communities.
The evolution and de-evolution.
I was just
cities.
about to say that.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Max has to take it negative. But it's kind of an interesting thing to consider. We have all this land. I mean, the United States is a big place. When we fly over it, why do we land on this spot? Why do we set up a community here? And why does that one thrive? And why does the other one, not? So.
Well, there are a few basic terms we have to grab hold of. One of them is highest and best use.
Talk to me.
All right. That is the standard by which your land is judged. So so right now, in the last 20, 30 years, we have been in a lot of gentrification, which is just basically companies and people buying into older, dilapidated areas and making changes or upgrades.
A lot of people don't like that word, and then some people do. And then
it just depends on which end of it you're on.
I suppose if you
liked
out.
your cute little neighborhood that looked like a Norman Rockwell painting from the 40s or 50s, and now all of a sudden they want to widen the streets, which means some of those really ancient trees are going to get cut down, and we all
might have to move because you can't afford it anymore.
Well, we all have legacy thinking, and we all like to think in the past,
right?
Or this is how it's been, and there are business opportunities in changing the past.
Okay.
So, welcome to urban planning. So, cities, and I'm going to pick on Chattanooga just a little bit. I was in Chattanooga 40 some odd years ago, and let's just say less than impressive. It looked dated, as you would say. It was a bit fly-specked, and it took local leaders to get a vision and say, okay, this is what we got today,
right?
But this is where we want to be in 20 years.
Right. So they had a blueprint. They had a plan.
And it's painful. It's a little like getting rid of a hangnail. It hurts, and it's going to hurt to remove it, but it's not going to get any better until you do.
Okay. Yeah.
And certain cities, pick on Chattanooga again, they had kind of a rundown river area. They had some areas that were less than stellar, and those were where they put their bets. And 20 years later, I was there for any number of shows 20 years ago, and those bets were paying off because now they were entertainment centers, they were people, they were lit up, they were bright, and it was bringing more interest to the city. And over the next 10 years, you watched this basically 40-year plan begin to play out. I'll pick on Nashville. Nashville now has an amazing entertainment district that they did not have 40 years ago. Now, 40 years ago, Detroit was all that in a bag of chips. And 30 years ago, the joke was whoever leaves last, turn out the lights. And then the city regrouped and made a lot of very painful decisions. And, now we're looking at them 10 years later, and there's a lot of urban renewal, and there's new businesses moving back in. And so welcome to the ebb and flow But the real trick is sometimes you just got to make a bet and have a plan.
That makes me think of the whole bit that you like, Joe, from The Office, where it's like, how could you tell that you're in the good old days before leaving them? Because, like, the good old days aren't a fixed day. It's as Allan says, it ebbs and flows. It comes and goes. Right now, you're looking at Hernando at its highest, but someday, eventually, it might go down again. It's not a cynical thing. It's just it's like acknowledging that life is like a wave. It has its ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, I can just say as an outsider, because I'm just looking at the city of Memphis, so I'm more objective when I talk about Memphis because I wasn't born here.
Right.
But I've been here almost 30 years. And there's areas in Memphis where I'm like, okay, that was a warehouse. Now there's a whole bustling. I'm just thinking of the whole downtown. Even Beale Street. Even there's so much that's really nice. I mean, there's some things. The Crosstown Center is a perfect example. We have a lot. This community, I think, is due for a renaissance in terms of. I really think we've got our problems. Once we get a handle on some of those, I think we're going to become another. I just think we're ready for a big. Successful. There's a lot of success ahead for Memphis.
Well, you weren't here back in the 70s.
Right.
And I'm going to set the Wayback Machine. And one of the anchors of Memphis, Tennessee was the Holiday Inn hotel chain.
Oh, yeah, that grew here, right?
That was the very first Holiday Inn ever was down here on Summer Avenue just off of Mendenhall. And had square avocado green bathtubs.
Yeah, I remember those.
Welcome to the day of Kimmons Wilson. There is a lovely exhibit of ancient Memphis on the walls at a hotel we're very, very familiar with the Holiday Inn Training Hotel over by the University of Memphis.
Right.
Then Memphis began kind of a strange idea. Because of our location on I-40 and I-55, we began advertising ourselves for no good reason other than we chose to, that we were America's distribution center.
I thought we were kind of.
We advertised it first.
I mean, we got FedEx, Allan.
It's Greenland. Come to Greenland. It's so green.
Oh, no, Matt.
Well, it was a little bit because FedEx back in 1970-something wasn't the juggernaut of power around the world that it is today. It was a fairly new company, but it chose well. Memphis really did lend itself to being
we're in the
America's distribution center.
Yeah, we're pretty central.
We got the bridges, we got the highways,
got a river right there.
We made a bet.
Yeah,
and we advertised ourselves as that, and it worked.
Yeah,
business came to Memphis.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch that and to not just be cynical all the time. There's a lot of good that we can be excited about. So, all right, we're going to continue the excitement here on Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
There's an exposed wire above the bathtub as well.
Oh, yeah, shock wire. I call it that because if you take a shower and you touch the wire, you die!
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And who gets to test that theory? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we also invite you to check out the one post I've made over on Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page. We've been a little focused on other things this morning. You know what? We're going to talk about it. We'll get it posted later. Sometimes I feel guilty if I'm not punctual with our posts and everything. So.
I have zero guilt.
Okay. Well, we have, and we'll be getting. I guess we got a caller sticking by. Stand by, caller. We're going to get to you shortly in a minute. Before the break, we were talking about sort of the evolution of communities, how communities, why does one community thrive while another, we have all this land in America, and why do you land on one and not the other? And it's kind of an interesting thing how that happens. But Allan had said something about, placing a bet. Like, we have this idea, we're placing a bet, and we're going to go for it. You know who else did that? almost 50 years ago. Our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. Hey, how's that for a segue? You know, well, for one thing, his father grew up teaching him about HVAC. Now, his father, boy, he saw it literally from the beginning. He remembers those 500-pound window units that probably cost as much as your house back in the day, and how to work on them, how to service those and everything. And Larry Brown was intrigued. He helped with his father, and he really recognized, especially here in the Mid-South, what a important feature having conditioned air is. And that doesn't just go for, that doesn't just apply to the, cooling and heating of the air. We're talking about conditioning, having the proper humidity, and having the cleanest air possible. So that became his mission. And Brown Refrigeration, there's nobody better. We love what Brown Refrigeration does. They work with trained systems. For one thing, he's established a very solid business culture, because one of the most important features of your HVAC company is the relationship that you'll have, because you are going to be having them out once or twice a year to inspect your system, to do a little minor servicing of your system, to clean your air vents, to clean your air ducts. And hopefully you have the Remy Halo system, which also creates the cleanest air possible. It even puts out cleaning particulates that clean every surface it hits. So it is turbocharged air. It is like the best air you're going to want. And also, as we said, Brown Refrigeration works with trained systems because they are state of the art. And it's a all-in-one. It's a one-stop shop. If you need to finance, Brown Refrigeration has great financing as well. We love like we said, the business culture that Brown Refrigeration has put together, and they answer their phones. So give them a call. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881, or go to their website, brownref.com. All right. Well, Max, who do we got on the line?
We got Gerald.
Okay.
You triggered him, Allan.
Not hard to do. So, all right. So, what's cooking, Gerald? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I hate to say it, but William Carrier first invented air conditioning.
We know that.
Larry's a trained dealer. So.
Well, we didn't say Larry invented air conditioning, but we love the guy. So, but we're not going to talk about Larry Brown with you, Gerald. I think you had something else, right? What was
Yes. All right. So Holiday Inns.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The architect for that was William Bond, and so he's the one who first started drawing those up, and he got paid to take the same blueprint and make it fit on a piece of property when they kept developing the Holiday Inns.
Okay. Cookie cutter. I hate to say it, right? Is that what you're talking about? Kind of a...
Well, yeah, for back then, though, that was unheard of. So like I say, he's taken the same blueprint of the Holiday Inn that he would just make it fit, and he got paid very handsomely for it.
So wait, nobody was doing that before? Because, let's just face it. If we go to a big box store in North Carolina, it's going to look pretty much the same as one in Texas or something. Are you saying he started that concept of just if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Or?
Well, they did it with houses, back then, but nobody did that with businesses,
Yeah, he and Kimmons Wilson came up with the idea of the experience. Of the Kimmons Wilson and his design team that he put together after he opened the first one was that he wanted I think the original design was the motor hotel, so that you could drive up. And so they put in these little U-shaped motor hotels. The motel was one of the first designs. And it worked so well that every time Kimmons came up with a new plan, like a Crown Plaza was pretty much the biggest thing Holiday Inn built in their time. Whichever Crown Plaza you went to, you pretty much knew where the elevators were going to be. Okay. You knew how they were going to be laid out. So if you went to the Crown Plaza in Atlanta and you came to the Crown Plaza in Memphis, you could fairly easily find your way around.
Okay. Hey, Gerald, are you you sound pretty well versed in this. How do you are you part of Holiday Inn, or did you
Well, no, actually, William Bond and his family went on to start building the Carrion nursing homes. That
Oh,
chain.
okay. Gotcha.
And so we did all the air conditioning for that.
I gotcha.
So yeah, I knew his sons a lot better than I did. I met Mr. Bond probably a couple of times.
It's
along the way.
interesting. It's interesting you're saying that because now that I think of it, because I've done, Alan, you know all about nursing homes and their functioning. It's not unlike the way you would map out a hotel, right? I mean,
Exactly. Well, you make the allocations for form and function, and then you start stamping them out.
Right.
And if you want to see an example of it, a good example of it is the one in Colleyville out there that's next to the funeral home, the old funeral home in the Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original carry-in that the Bonds built.
Yeah, I know that one real well.
And the thing is, they went to building them in like Ripley and Covington and West Virginia, and I mean we were traveling all over the place doing these things, and they couldn't build them fast enough back then.
Yeah.
I mean, people were just clamoring to get their parents in there because there really wasn't a whole lot of what would you call it mass nursing home facilities,
right?
Like there is today.
Yeah, now it's an industry. So
well, it's amazing the number of amazing ideas from grocery store layouts to hotel layouts to nursing home layouts that all came out of Memphis.
Yeah. How about FedEx?
Mm-hmm.
Not too bad. So
yeah, we do okay for ourselves on occasion.
Yeah, because Gerald, I sort of get annoyed when I hear people bashing the city because I'm an outsider. I could live anywhere I want, but I want to live here, and I think there's a lot. We have a lot going for us. We have our problems, but I think we're going to overcome those. I really do feel like we're on the threshold of some sort of a renaissance here. So, but Gerald, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate that.
One other quick thing.
Yeah.
The Sears Crosstown. My aunt worked in that building.
Really? The original?
But it was Sears. Yeah, the original as part of the Sears.
Oh, nice. So were you, because I got to, if I'm being full disclosure, when they talked about renovating that and turning it into almost like it's a mini city, I thought it was the dumbest idea I've ever heard, and now I've done a total 180. I think it's great, but what were you thinking back in the day when they were talking about revitalizing that?
I knew it was going to take years for it to happen because me being in the construction industry, because of all the asbestos and everything else, to bring everything up to code and all that. I said, I saw the millions, and there was nobody that had the millions until they finally got around to doing it. To do it, I knew that's what was going to happen. That somebody was going to turn it into that. It was a perfect logical location to do that as downtown was developing.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a matter of time before they got around to doing it. And like I say, I like the building too.
It is. It's cool, man. It's like if I ever bring anybody into town, I'm taking them there because it's almost like it's almost like its own little, community. It's got a theater. It's got places to eat. It's got apartments, work, everything. It's got a little clinic. It's got everything.
And the other thing is that you can see architecturally, construction-wise, what the inside of some what they had to do to make those big see the columns and so forth that are there to make a structure that tall.
Right.
All right. That is one thing that's one thing I appreciated about the entire process down there was they did leave some open. You can actually see the structure of the building. They made that part of the finished product.
Yeah. It sounds structurally there was a lot going for it. There was, like you said, though, Gerald, the asbestos, the cleanup, but the bones of it were there, and that's what they built around, it sounds like.
Yeah. And like I say, and I've been in a bunch of buildings downtown, and I can tell you the Masonic Lodge downtown at 4th and Court Street, that building is a rock.
Yeah.
They've tried to sell the building and nobody wants to buy it because it costs more to demo it than it does to buy it.
Yeah. Well, somebody's going to do it, but I mean, like we said, there's a lot of good things here that we're just beginning on. So, hey, Gerald, we're coming up on the break, man, but we appreciate you calling in this morning on Tool Talk Radio. But good points there. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of buildings down there, Alan, that are ready for revitalization. So, all right, we got a lot of we've got a lot to get to, and we're gonna do it when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allen.
What kind of place is this?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I mean, it's all about your attitude.
It is.
It's what you bring to the table. And I don't even know what that means. And we'll come back
I think he's referring to Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait a minute. We like Detroit. Shut up, Max. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. Detroit's having a renaissance, Max. Shows what you know. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the cynical Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Hey, Allan, before the break, well, actually, not before the break, I don't know how much we teased this, but I think I did mention today that we have an update in the home security world, and we have to discuss this one lightly because I don't want to get sued. But hey, I'm just reporting the news, and I don't know. I would love if a lawyer had an opinion about any of this. But a buddy of ours, Frank Chin, posted that I think it's a real story. I don't think it's fake news. That somebody has developed a remote control paintball gun that can also shoot pepper balls that you work from your phone. So you basically have this big thing on your, I guess you stick it in your yard or something. And if somebody bothers you or they come to your house, you can shoot paintballs or pepper balls. Peppers are, that's like pepper spray, right? It's the idea to make you blinded and to, I like the idea of paintballs. But, okay, is this something you would want for your home? I guess because we're talking about now we're getting to home security. We already have the app. We can look at our phone and see cameras. We have I have that for my house. But now we're taking action.
All right. Well,
to deter.
All right. My experience with that is years ago, I and a few friends had a buddy with a raccoon problem. He had all these beautiful goldfish ponds. And basically, it was a raccoon sushi bar.
Oh, no. They just walk up.
They were like, whoa, look, they put more in here. Yeah, it was self-serve. And what we managed to do was rig up a motion detector to the sprinkler system.
Okay, that sounds par for the course. Yeah,
and
I didn't think of that angle.
When the furry little guys, now we hooked it up so that if you popped up on this, this is in a backyard, this is contained, this is away from the public, but we had the little, irrigation sprayer.
Yeah.
We put one right there next to the fish pond so that when the little critter broke the beam, jumping up on the ledge to get him a little fresh fish dinner,
right,
he got a refreshing spritz.
Well, raccoons don't like that or something?
No, they are not fond of that at all.
I didn't know that.
And
I thought they could handle being out in the weather.
That worked fine until the little beast figured out the one spot that the eye didn't see, and then they came in that way. So
now
we had to hook up
interesting.
2 of them. Yeah, they're very smart.
Well, you've said so. You said once they figure out car keys, we're done.
Man, we are done for. So
that's interesting.
Having built a system like that, I will tell you that, all right, all I got to say is there will be unintended consequences.
Well, we know that. I think what we're talking about in this segment of Tool Talk Radio, folks, is basically non-lethal booby traps for our home.
Right, and there will be unintended consequences.
Okay.
Because your dog's going to get whacked. Or your cat is going to get whacked. Or worse yet, grandma, who's going to make a surprise visit when you're not home, is going to accidentally get whacked. So I'm just saying, beware of anything and really play out in your mind what are the unintended consequences.
Well, it's like anything, though. I mean, to not take action. Like, I don't want people breaking into my car or trying to get into my house. So, but
you also have to take into consideration that anything that is unmanned
Yeah, but you're manning it. You're using your phone,
Well,
or
no,
you're
that's up
using
to
the
you.
app.
I'm
so
going to leave that up to you there.
what do you got, Max?
We actually got a texter in. Alex says, "What happens when your teenager sneaks out and gets lit up with paintballs?"
Well, they snuck out.
That's how you
for one thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like putting the dye in the money bags.
There you go. Yeah, Alex, you're not wrong. But hey, that's how they learn. You know, they.
My dad's there's gonna be some counseling with that one.
But
I
feel like
I'm just saying, no matter what you do, if you have something that happens like that, there will be unintended consequences.
I feel like it's all situational too. Obviously, people that live in apartments have different security challenges than we do if you live in a yard or if you live out in a rural community or something. So I guess it's funny because now that you're saying this, there may be listeners that we have that they're not worried about crime. They're worried about animals getting into their home. Like you said, they might be getting raccoon invasions and stuff. So maybe because I've had my struggles over the years,
Squirrels.
Knock on wood, my squirrel problem is over. I mean, I think Jay Hill solved that one. Yeah, I like the idea of going up against raccoons with this type of technology. I don't know. Maybe not paintballs. I don't know what you said. Just spray them with water.
Yeah, well, that was just part of the irrigation system. It was already there. You could remotely. Now, of course, back then we didn't have an app on the phone to turn it on. So, but yeah, you've got irrigation systems. You got an app for that. If you put a little ring in your garden and realize the deer were about to munch down on all those lovely vegetables you put out there, you might activate the sprinkler system to remind them to get out of your yard.
Okay. There it is. Al. I knew the conversation would come full circle. This is what it's going to be. You know how we talked about these home security robots a few weeks ago? People like you and me, we're not the ones that are going to get these. You know who's going to get them? All of our farmers and our people that work out, and they're just concerned about protecting their crops or protecting their livestock. Man, you get some in lieu of scarecrows and things like that. You get some robots that are going to roam your land and keep the wildlife in order. Now, what would you arm that? Now, how would you outfit your?
Well, that's just got to be sound and light.
You think so?
Well,
that's enough.
Nothing nocturnal wants sound and light. Their whole point in life is that it's nighttime and you can't see me. And if you had one of the little robot dogs, we've seen all these things in the media these days, and I think you can now buy them online. If you had one set up for motion detection and you set up the little grid he's supposed to stay in, he could walk around your property, and if somebody is trying to break into your home, the last thing they want is a robot dog walking up behind it with 120 dB siren and flashing lights. So I'm all about discovery and annoyance. I'm just warning
Discovery
people,
and Annoyance. That's a good.
That sounds like the name for like an album.
It sounds like the name of a band. Yeah. Discovery and Annoyance. There
the idea is that you're trying to alert somebody to something they don't want alerted to, if you've got a property and you've got one of these little security robots, it's more about taking pictures, documenting, because they got cameras.
Yeah.
That robot can have a camera. It can photograph whoever's on your property or whatever's on your property. So you can get some interesting nature pictures of a deer running away from the robot dog as he's flashing lights and blaring a horn. Or that porch pirate. See,
those are the guys I want to get. I don't like those porch pirate. I'd love to come up with a system for them.
As prevalent as pranks are today, and the internet and cameras, you would have to be insane to think that you're getting away with anything these days.
Well, that's the thing.
You are being photographed constantly.
Right. And they wind up on these, YouTube channels and stuff.
Yeah. I will say this, for anybody with malfeasance in their heart, it is not a matter of if. It is a matter of when.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to photograph you, and you're going to have to answer for things. You do not want to use the words, "but Your Honor."
But I don't know. I guess my thing though, I do like booby trap. I think we need more booby traps in our community, in our home security. But I guess I did have a question. I just had a practical question. It said they shoot pepper balls. But what does that do? It hits you, it like disperses,
it's
and it
dye,
makes it where you can't
and it's
see.
capsaicin. So if you rub your eyes, you just maced yourself.
Oh, so it sprays you, it blurs your eyes, then you rub it, and you made it 10
your
times
nose
worse.
is going to. Capsaicin does terrible things to you.
I hate to play devil's advocate, Allan, but maybe you can help answer this question better than Joe. I always think about when I'm planning my arsenal, the level of potential intoxication or insensitivity to pain of a particular person. Is something like that still going to hurt somebody who's drunk?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You get into pepper spray, you get into capsaicin, you get into, like habanero juice. I promise you, I don't care how lit you are. It's going to light you up.
Okay, so that's there on the table, folks. If you got any good non-lethal home security measures that you want to suggest, let us know what they are. Well, it's time to take a break. Hour one's in the can, Allan. It disappeared. It flushed down the drain. But don't worry, folks. We're coming back for the second hour of Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We'd love to talk to you about tools. We haven't talked much about that, Allan. Actually, Max, stand by because I do have a tool tale for you coming up. But also, we've been talking about, why does one community thrive? What makes people set up they say, we're going to make a city, we're going to plant it here, and it's going to, we're going to stake our claim, and we're kind of talking about the evolution of cities. We're also talking about remote-controlled home security, and I think we need more booby traps in our world. And that's something out there. We don't want to get sued.
That's one of our other texters mentioned, or has a text on the line to tell you.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. You know what? Why don't we get to that, Max, and then after that we'll share our tool tale. But what do you got, man?
So Alex, loyal texter Alex, slowly becoming the deuce.
Oh, God.
Although you can't top the deuce.
Those are big shoes to fill. So, okay.
So my stepdad found footprints outside my sister's window in the snow. It appeared to be a peeping Tom. So he put a bunch of nails through plywood around her window and covered it with a thin layer of snow. Now that I think about it, though, if there was a fire, she would have had holes in her feet. Thank you, Alex.
All right. Out in the woods, those are called bear boards. And you do put them around your cabin if you are in an area that has bears.
Okay, that sounds pretty mean, though.
Yeah,
so
it
that
is.
sounds
That's
like
Home
a
Alone.
lawsuit waiting to happen. Yeah, Alex, I do not endorse that. Alex, what is our legal liability on that comment that we just...
We're just going to say thanks for the story. We do not advocate.
I'm curious how effective it was if somebody was out, whatever. But, okay.
Well, what are they going to do, knock on the door and complain? No, I don't think so.
Have you ever stepped on a nail? It hurts. I mean, going through...
I wish it was A. Gosh.
Okay, but you do that to bear. Now, Allan, I'm not trying to hurt bears, but what does that do to a bear that steps on one?
He's not. They're smarter than us.
Don't say that.
On certain occasions.
Okay, I don't like that.
And they will put their paws down lightly on something and go, "Oh, this is not good," and back away from it.
What if they're running in on a charge?
Well, if they're charging in, that's an entirely different movie.
I don't like that. Alex, I don't like that idea. That does not fall within the purview of what I'm talking about. Good, clean fun. Shooting paintballs at a burglar
or a peeping Tom.
I still stand by my idea, though, of the stink spray. Well, both, because what I want is the perpetrator to remember this, or like if they're out in public, okay, well, they're covered with paint, or they're covered with a
negative influence,
right? Yes. Or they're not going to want to be walking around the community stinking like a skunk or something. So.
That reminds me of the episode of That 70s Show where Eric and Donna got their revenge on their friends, and they stuffed the brownies with chocolate Turbolax.
Yeah. Now I have no problem with that. If you can sabotage something with, yeah, exactly.
It's delayed gratification. Let's just call it
there
that.
you go.
Can we do anything with tools before we get
The
sued?
ultimate burn. All right, yeah, let's shift gear. This is Tool Talk Radio after all, Max. And thanks, Alex, anyway, for the effort. But we are not endorsing your idea. Sorry. But go ahead, Max. I've got something more apropos to discuss.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
To the degree that a paintbrush is a tool, Allan, this is my tool tale. No, this is just this is sort of an update, but it's also just a reminder that we don't have to go for the high dollar, the high dollar options. Sometimes you can spend $10 and fix a solution. So if you've been listening to Tool Talk Radio for the last month or so, you know that we bought a couch. We talked about that. We bought a really nice couch because we got such a good deal on it, which triggered basically remodeling the whole living room or redecorating the whole living room. Well, I told you, Allan, that my wife wanted to do something unique. We have a fireplace wall that we have the fireplace. There's a little wall that wraps around it kind of frames it in. And she said, let's paint that black. And which is sort of unique because we have very light walls, almost black and white motif. But so I painted it black, and then we painted the mantle a gloss black.
Right.
And it looks pretty cool, man. It almost looks like an art gallery or something. But you know what doesn't look cool? The brick. There was some brickwork around it that looked fine when it was up against white, but now up against the black, it looks awful. It looks like it looked bad. It just looked dull and uninteresting or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, she started talking about maybe we could put tile over it. Maybe we could do all this. And I started adding up in my head how much that's going to cost and how much work it's going to be. I said, let me try one thing before we do that. So what I did, I went to my big box store, and I don't know what you would have used. So just to describe it, because I feel like we should give accurate advice here, Allan. So this is brick that is very smooth. It basically is a brick. It frames it's up against the mantle, and it's what stands between the fireplace. I mean, it's what stands between the fireplace and the woodwork. There's a division of brick. So it's 8 or 10 inches wide. But it's pretty slick. It's a pretty slick finished brick. So I cleaned it really good, and then I used what did I use? I used acetone. I was trying to basically make the surface as porous as I could, because in my experience, and that's why I want to ask you. I'm not the chemist, you are, but you know how they call it etching. I know there's an etching, but
acid etching. Yes.
But I didn't feel like doing that because it would make, I don't know. It's a vertical surface, and I don't care that much. I know there's a proper way to do it, but also the drying time takes longer. I wanted quick and fast, so I cleaned it because acetone basically evaporates in 20 minutes.
Very quickly,
paint it.
Very easily. Gets the small dirt and stuff and particles out of the pores.
Right. So I did that, and then I took a 2-inch brush, and I bought a $10 can. I call it a can, but it's really just a little sample size of semi-transparent latex stain, and it's a white. It's called whitewash. That was the color. Mm-hmm. And I did a faux finish. I basically carefully went around the entire fireplace and I textured it, so I made it look basic. And I put about 4 coats on, and then I took the stain and I carefully, with an artist brush, went over the mortar to make the lines pop, to make it look like it was brighter mortar. It transformed the whole thing. It looks great. We're getting compliments. It changed the whole thing for $10.
Well,
and I love that. I mean, partly because it was easy. It took me 2 hours and I was done. So,
well, the comment I'm going to make to that is well done. The idea in a lot of projects is you look at it, you identify the problem. And then I like to tell people, just draw 2 lines down to where you're at. Okay. You know how you want it to look at the end. You basically know in your gut where you're going to be happy. Now, you may not know how to get there, but you just simply draw a line down and go, okay, what are the options? Yeah. We could tile it. We could this, we could that. But if we did all that, what is the finished product still supposed to look like? Well, what you wanted here was a good contrast.
Yeah, because what the beef was, Allan, that was exactly the contrast. Because at the moment, the brick really popped against the white mantle because that's what we have.
Because
Now
it was the dark brick versus the white mantle.
Now we have a jet black mantle, and the brick looks awful.
And
It's almost mute. It's almost like just monotone and dull and
Yeah, well, the brick's
uninteresting.
getting his Kedittelhofer kicked.
It's blending in.
Yeah, it's
instead of
too much
sticking
of the
out.
same thing. Now, what you did by increasing your contrast was you took the simplest possible route to the solution you needed.
Right.
Now, you could have done all the other things. You could have gotten plaster, mortar. You could have remixed a new coating and cover for it. But at the end of the day, what you wanted was contrast.
Well, here's the thing.
And you got there.
And I'm glad you said that because here's the thing. If this was the 30-year-old me, I would have been removing the brick. I'd have been gutting everything. I'd have been going and trying to buy every tool that I possibly could need for this. I would have done the nuclear option because back then, that's, hey, we're gonna go for it. And in the end, the results may not have even been any better. And it might have actually been worse. But today,
a lot of times they were, yeah.
Today, it's basically, let's start. And my logic with my wife was like, look, I'm going to spend $10. If we don't like it, then we go to plan B or something.
Exactly.
But why start with the nuclear option?
All right. I have a sign over my desk that has been there now almost 30 plus years. And it says simply, do not confuse effort with results.
Those are words. Those are not bad. That's not bad advice, Al. Those are words to live by with home improvement.
So, and especially when you look at a home project, I tell everybody, and I literally just had an argument with a client over this about a week ago because the client gave me the parameters. This is the parameter of the project. We're meeting these goals.
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep coming back with stuff that has nothing to do with the parameters that they gave me.
They're getting caught up in the excitement.
And I'm like,
of
all
it
right, you make one more trip to IKEA. I'm letting the air out of your tires. Stop. This is, these aren't bad ideas, but they're not the idea you want in the finished product.
Right.
So the trick is, really honestly, think about what the finished product needs to be and take the simplest and often cheapest route
absolutely
to your goal.
There you go. So, so I would call it a successful operation.
That's
all
awesome.
the way around. So, all right. Well, speaking of successful operations, this is going to be good. When we come back in our great moments in building history, we're going to talk about the highly relevant Dixie Cup factory.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
My son is several weeks old. He's quite familiar with the sound of power tools.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, that's one of my failings, Allan. I didn't teach my kids how to use power tools till they were like 2 years old. So, I mean, whatever. Start them young. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, unless you've got ideas that'll get us sued or canceled or something like that. Like Alex. Alex is really threading the needle. Alex, we're going to circle back in the future on one of your ideas that you sent in that's actually very useful, but we're going to make a whole segment out of that.
Oh, yeah.
So. And we don't want any more of your dangerous home security texts coming in.
I do.
Okay. But we do appreciate it, and we love hearing from our listeners. So feel free all day to call or text us. But Allan, I'm throwing it to you. Here we go.
And now, great moments in building history.
Because folks, full disclosure, when we plan our shows, we all take turns with coming up with the great moments in building history. And this was Allan's suggestion, and he does this on purpose. He comes up with things, and he doesn't give me very much information because I think what he's doing is trying to make me react like I am now. Where it's like, it sounds like a terrible idea, Allan, until you do the research, and you're like, oh, this actually relates to everything. So, but go ahead, man. So.
It does indeed.
So.
Pretend this is an episode of The Golden Girls. Again, I'm going to say picture it.
Okay.
It's 1905, and you're at the railway station, and you would like a nice, cool drink of water.
Okay.
So you're going to walk over to a big 55-gallon oak barrel, And there is going to be hanging on a hook a big old ladle. And you're going to dip it in there, and you're going to get you a big old cool drink of water.
Okay.
After everybody else on the train.
There's an episode of Parks and Rec where they put their mouths on the water spouts.
So everybody there is sharing the ladle and drinking right out of it. So
how the human race is still alive is still amazing.
You know what's interesting to me, though, Alan? Because obviously that's a problem, but somebody sold somebody on that idea. He said, you know what you need? If you want everybody to have a drink of water, put a barrel here and we'll put this. And
put a ladle on it.
Bring a sense of community.
At one point, that sounded like the best idea of the century.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Okay.
Except an inventor in Boston by the name of Lawrence Llewellyn was kind of horrified when he got to thinking about it and went, I'm not touching that.
What? Okay.
So what he did was he came up with, I'm still trying to figure out in my head how he managed to get from a sheet of wax paper to a cup.
Yeah. Because we're talking about the Dixie Cup factory.
We are going to discuss the Dixie Cup factory. And Lawrence sat around for a while working on this idea, and then he came up with a process by which he could roll and press wax paper, which is fundamentally waterproof to a point.
Within reason,
and make a cup out of it.
So his idea was instead of everybody sharing it, everybody gets their own clean cup. And
you needed a small, cheap, and in this happily biodegradable, you needed a disposable answer to this.
Right.
And now this is 1907 when he comes around and comes up with the idea of the health cup.
So this was a health issue. This was not like, hey, this is just convenience of carrying a cup around. This was like, we got to quit sharing germs here.
Well, because you got to remember in the 20s, we had the Spanish flu.
Sure.
That killed millions of people. So now suddenly hygiene and safety and cleanliness are a huge factor. And here is Lawrence Llewellyn sitting here with his little health cups and water fountains.
Okay. Instead of a big barrel that the water is stagnant and warm and whatever. So
railway stations everywhere began installing dispensable cups and a water cooler that you couldn't put your mouth on, and you could get a cup of water for a penny.
Okay. Well, yeah, because he's got to cover the cost.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, welcome to an idea that was a little bit ahead of its time and then was perfectly suited to help, keep us all alive.
So there was a few things I had in mind because it sounds like the perfect. It even sort of ties in with our discussion of the evolution of a city because the way it seems to me, Alan, you had a city. First of all, at this period in history, we're starting to become much more aware of microbes and germs and the microscopic world out there. Also, what I was going to ask you is how long have we had wax paper? Like when did, you know what I mean? Like when did he say, well, we've got this material, we've got paper coated with wax, and he puts two and two together?
Paper goes back as far back as wax goes, because a waxed paper was, a way of dissuading water.
I suppose I mean mass-produced wax paper. Was the butcher using wax paper back in the day with this?
Yeah, there was, as you follow paper manufacturing up. Now, of course, right around the Civil War is the beginning of the modern era of manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, we get into the cereals, we get into food wars, cola wars, we get into refrigeration, we get, all of that is, we start with our favorite World's Fair there in Chicago. And from there forward, it's just everybody has great ideas. Anything that was old is new again. We're trying different ways of doing things. And wax paper was among them. Every baker in the world had some wax paper at the house. And he came up with the idea of making the cup and then making it disposable and also tagging it along with the water fountain.
Well, here's
the water, here's everything, because also keep in mind, you're also getting a prohibition the whole thing about prohibition is beginning to get rid of alcohol.
Oh, right.
So water is now filtered and cleaner and safer to drink. So the world is now shifting off of an alcohol-based beverage world into your teas and coffees and sodas. Because remember, here's Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all of these drinks we have today all have roots back in 1890, 1900, 1910, 1920.
Okay, here and see, it's funny how this all coalesces too, because this really was the birth of the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
But one thing that came along were snow cones.
Yes.
The snow cone is the perfect example. If you're at a carnival or if you're someplace and you're buying a snow cone, you don't just give them a glass jar or that could get expensive, or a tin container. A waxed paper type thing it's cheap, it's easy. They throw it out when they're done. But okay, Allan, okay, it's all well and good to talk about let's make a wax cup. Well, you got to make it. And you got to get it out to the public. And this factory, because you would think, they're making wax cups. How complicated could this be? But
let's talk about how many you need.
Right.
And the fact that the health cup was very popular.
I would bet it is.
It's massive. Yeah. So by the time he builds his factory there in Easton, Pennsylvania, he builds basically a giant, in those days it was concrete.
Yeah.
That was the medium, was concrete. And he builds a 600,000 square foot factory. By the time the factory is well and done, it grew over time, but the factory that is standing there today is 600,000 square feet to make paper cups.
He must have started from scratch too. He's making the wax paper. He's cutting it.
They were buying the wax paper. They were getting that from a paper company.
Okay, because I was going to say, I'm picturing. Well, we've all driven by paper mills. They stink. They have that, but so at least he had a product to start with.
Yes.
But this had to fold it, stack them, cut them, and keep it watertight.
Yep, and package it. And you can keep in mind, being the first one there. And I'm going to tie this directly into home improvement, because people my age, we all remember a Dixie Cup dispenser in the bathroom in the 60s and 70s.
I do remember that. They were like, what 4 ounces? It has a little cup, and people would brush their teeth and they'd swish their mouth.
Absolutely ubiquitous. They were everywhere.
That was kind of high class. Like, hey, we've got, when you stay at our house, we've got the Dixie Cup. We got
Dixie Cups, yes.
Right.
So welcome to this. I mean, my goodness.
He had the idea to make it stackable, that you could put 50 Dixie Cups in a little stack.
So you think about all of the innovations that came together on just the simplest product. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of boggles the mind. But this simple, tiny little product saved how many millions of lives?
Yeah.
Up to and including a water disaster in the area. And on the top of the building, he had a giant Dixie cup put up there. So you always knew it was his.
That's cool branding.
But the cool thing is, it wasn't decoration. It was his water tower.
I have sort of a science question for you, Allan. This is based on we'll probably have to visit this thought when we get back. But how about the idea of even making your choice of Dixie Cup material more intentional? Because I know people like to drink out of, there's better health benefits for you drinking out of like a metal or a glass as opposed to plastic or paper. So I wonder if there's a way for Dixie to evolve to make your drinking experience even more healthful.
So you infuse the wax with vitamins and things like that. So
well, it was,
or at least where it's not going to hurt you. So
we'll talk about the grades of paper they used when we come back.
Absolutely, and I am very curious about the mechanics of how this works, because it's not as simple as it sounds. All right, well, strap in, everybody, because it's all coming back when we come. It's all coming to you when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Oh, I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite operational when your friends arrive.
News Talk 98.9. The roar of Memphis.
Gotta get my daily Palpatine in.
Yeah, we hadn't heard much from him today, but and he doesn't
have
sound
much to
afraid
say.
at all. Very sarcastic man. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, like some people have been doing today, including Alex, who we might have to start banning, Max, because he's going to get us sued. But
I don't. That's my entertainment.
We're not going to ban you, Alex. We're just kidding. But he had a really good text that we are revisiting. Believe us, we're going to put it in the pile, Alex, because we're actually going to unpack it a little further in the future. So stay tuned, but we'll get to that. But I think we have another text that we'll be hearing from in a minute. Before we do that, though, let's hear about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, because you talk about dynamic. You know, Allan, we've been talking about the Industrial Revolution. We've been talking about these dynamic thinkers that come up with some of the game-changing ideas that really they transform the world. Well, you know what? Part of one in that same vein, the exterior protection of our home has come a long way, and that's what Jay Hill specializes in. He's all about from top to bottom, your roofing, your gutters, your siding, and your windows. And what's great about that is it's not only protecting the home, but it's decorative too. My roof looks awesome, Allan. I get compliments still on my Big M roof. I know you do too as well. But they're highly functional and they're very well thought out. And that requires training and that requires expertise. Jay is one of the most highly rated roofers in the Mid-South. He's always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. He's a GAF Master Elite Installer. And that goes for his gutters and siding and windows as well, because that all works together as a system. And of course the roofing systems that they install are so they're so well produced and so well manufactured that they actually offer a lifetime transferable warranty. But what also sets Jay apart is his expertise in the field of home insurance, because he used to actually be an insurance agent. So he's one of the experts when it comes to if you have a claim, if you have a problem with damage to your home that may be covered by your homeowner's insurance. It's a really complicated process to navigate.
Jay kind of makes me think of a Swiss Army knife in terms of his versatility and range of expertise.
You're not off the mark there. He does. He's got, and that also goes to his remodeling work as well. So, he's very well versed, but he also brings he brings an energy to every project he's a part of. But if you do have anything involving the exterior protection of your home, your roof, and interior remodeling, keep Jay in mind. But if you have damage, he should be the first person you call, because if there is a possibility of making a homeowner's claim, he knows the process. He can identify whether you actually have a path forward with that, and if you do, he's going to save you thousands of dollars. And it's but the best part of Jay is his excitement, optimism, and just the expertise that he brings to every job. And he always encourages you to call him directly. This is his direct phone number. You could reach him anytime. I always say call during the middle of a big football game or something and interrupt it at 901-484-5645 or go to their website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com. We're about to jump back into our great moments in building history discussion, but Max, I think one of our texters actually has a related comment. Is that right?
Pertinent comment, yes. Our buddy Norman Rockwell. I just love saying his name, by the way.
Well, Norman Rockwell was a great artist as well. So
I remember when they had the metal Dixie Cup dispensers about 1 foot long or more that were permanently attached to the wall like a towel rod and is attached next to drinking fountains.
Oh, yeah. I think we all remember that.
Yep.
Why did they get rid of those?
Well, now we all carry these cups with it. Everybody refills their. We have more advanced ways, I guess. So.
Well, around 1983, we were talking about paper and how things changed over time, and they started at wax paper and went through a variety of grades of paper and different coatings for different uses. So they made cups for hot, cups for cold. They made cups for ice cream. So they made a wide variety. But around 83, plastic kind of took over.
Yeah.
And it would have cost too much to try to renovate the factory. It was just cheaper to build a new one. So around 1983 or so, 600,000 square feet of one of the most active factories ever built was shuttered.
Yeah.
And it has sat there ever since.
600,000.
So, we were picturing, now I'm going to bring up the Sears building here in Memphis for just a moment.
Yeah.
Because that was 1 million square feet of building.
Right.
And it was built like a tooth. I mean, there was, by the time you got to the actual structure of the building, tearing it down was going to be a monumental feat. So, years and years later, you and I will freely admit, I had my doubts. I was a little bit of a doubter as to whether or not the concourse would survive and thrive. And it has exceeded all expectations. So with the success of projects like the concourse, the 600,000 square foot Dixie Cup factory is about to get a second life.
Oh yeah, somebody's gonna revitalize that.
The Dixie Cup concourse.
Well, it's very much because of the size of this thing, it can have, much like our concourse, it can have commercial space, it can have residential space, it can have pretty much anything it wants. It's absolutely huge.
Right.
Now, another project we talked about recently was they had built living quarters out of a baseball stadium.
Yeah. An abandoned baseball stadium, and they're cool. Those are neat apartments.
And that is a hot-looking complex, especially if you're really into baseball.
Yeah.
Because they make it look like you live in the stadiums.
Well, it's fun. Well, yeah. They kept the spirit of it. I guess I'm wondering how you keep the spirit of a Dixie Cup.
They're going to keep the cup. They're going to keep the cup
the water
on top.
tower.
Right. They're going to keep the water tower. It's going to be refurbished. It's going to maintain its function as a water tower, and of course, it will be repainted for whatever the name of the finished product is going to be. But much like our concourse here, it's going to be a small city.
Oh yeah,
it's going to have food. It's going to have entertainment. It's going to have, it's going to be a contained area, and I think that is the perfect tie-in to every single thing we've talked about today, except for maybe paintballs.
Well,
because, here is a lot of real estate. It's been there a long time.
Yeah.
That's incredibly well built. Now, it's going to cost $100 million to bring it up to code, to demolish all the old stuff and bring in the new and, make this place happy, healthy, and safe. But the fact that we're not wasting the territory,
right?
We're going to tie it back in. And this also plays hugely into whether or not your town has placed the right bet for its future.
Well, that's a good point.
Because this has been sitting there empty now since 83. So that is 41 years.
Yeah. Well, that sounds about par for the course.
And now somebody's looking at it going,
Yeah.
You couldn't afford to build this building today, but we could sure afford to renovate it and put it back into play.
Right.
And suddenly it goes from urban blight in an abandoned building to, honestly, a potential focal point of the area.
Yep. I did want to circle back on one thing, though, because I want to just think about this from the point of view of living 100 years ago. This was actually what we're talking over 120 years ago.
Yeah, 1907.
And what was the founder again?
Mr. Llewellyn.
Okay, so Llewellyn. So I'm just picturing this because sometimes it's one thing to have one idea, but if you can piggyback it on other ideas, like I'm just thinking of the precise engineering that was actually involved in these Dixie cups, because it's not enough that you produce a watertight cup. He produced cups that could be stacked together. He produced dispensers that could be, and these are, that is engineering down to the micromillimeters sometimes, because they have to sit snugly inside of each other, but they also have to be able to be pulled apart. There's chemistry involved with having the proper amount of wax. There is a lot, and I'm just picturing the factory that actually makes this because, it's easy to just when I would watch with the kids when Mr. Rogers is showing you how peanut butter is made or something. Well, the machinery is it blows your mind. This thing is that precise. It's so, I don't know. And doing this 120 years ago, it's a pretty big engineering feat.
All right.
Man.
Well, keep in mind, he also innovated multi-ply paper machines.
Oh, yeah.
So like plywood, you didn't know it, but in that tiny little thin Dixie cup, it was so strong because the paper fibers were laid down like plywood.
Oh,
they went different directions inside the cup, in that tiny little cup. These things were spun into shape at incredibly high speeds. They've been through gluing. They've been through different ways of making them water resistant. And for heat, they even came up with corrugating.
Yeah, I wondered what you do if you want to pour your coffee in there because they would have had a system for that.
They had a corrugated layer on the inside of that cup that lets you have what you wanted to have.
Yeah, so it was very well executed, and that's why they were a success. So, but that's an interesting study, folks, for you in the future. Study the Dixie Cup factory.
It is fascinating.
We got a lot to wrap up, Alan. We got our must-have item of the week, and we got to find out what Alan did this week. So we're gonna stick around here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And now for the finishing touch.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, that's the way to go into our final segment, Max. Very good. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. By the way, we've yet to have a listener guess who said those magnificent words. And don't tell them, Max. That's if you grew up in the 70s watching cartoons, you would know who that was.
Or with a dad who raised you on the classics.
There you go. Anyway, I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you want to tell us how you're celebrating National Diatomaceous. What is it? Diatomaceous Earth Day.
DE Day.
Yeah.
It sounds like D-Day, but with like a little bit of a hesitation.
Yeah, which just proves that you can get a holiday out of anything. I mean, yeah. When are we going to get the Tool Talk Radio holiday, man?
We have to apply for it.
And we have to be important enough.
All right. Anyway, if you're out there celebrating that, let us know how you're celebrating it. So, but we've had some pretty interesting conversations. But let's steer back to tools, and let's get to our must-have item of the week, which I've got here and I'm holding up, but we don't have the camera on, Alan. So, but you can. This one, I think you can tell. I'm not going to push the trigger because something might shoot out of it. But I guess you can tell people what I'm holding up.
You're holding up a good old-fashioned commercial and industrial strength staple gun.
Folks, so here, I mean, I think we all know staple guns. I wonder how often they're misused, though, Alan, because
60% of the time.
I think, and this one is pretty good. This has got the, let's see, I think I've got 5/16 staples in here with the very, very sharp. I mean, this could hurt somebody if you staple this into your arm or something. But
my question is does it look like, if I'm looking at it correctly, that it has like a two-pronged, like, a safety measure to it, where it has like a metal tip that pushes down, and then you have the trigger.
Right. It has the little spring activated thing where you have it's I'm sure you know what a staple gun looks like, folks, but you want the one with the safety where you push it won't release the staples till it pushes it down.
It kind of makes me think of like modern firearms and everything, how there's that little element on the trigger too.
In theory, these work, but really, you could still you could shoot them at people because all you do is pull back the, But the thing about it, Alan, is back in my younger days, I was like, well, the great thing about a staple gun is it's mostly a one-handed tool, which in theory it is, but let's be honest, if you want the best results, the more mature and the more, I could care less what people think of me, I start using two hands when I'm doing a staple gun because you hit it. You have it in place, and there's a lot of force and a lot of kick, and inevitably it bounces your hand back, and then you got to tap the staple in with a hammer or something, and you've wasted time. So you get 2 hands, you snug it up there, and, you're in business.
Now, what would the velocity be of a staple if it wasn't going through anything? Like, if it was just allowed to go straight through the air?
Well, I can tell you from scientific experimentation, Max, I've shot staples just for kicks. You pull back the safety and you shoot it at something. They don't go that far. I think, Allan, I've gotten maybe 10 or 15 feet out of it before they fall and die.
Well, that's because
right?
you're not firing an aerodynamic item. You're flinging a staple out into the air.
Right.
It's not so much the speed at which it moves as the pressure and torque at which it moves. Because I have the same model Joe has sitting there in my truck. I also have the 18-volt version.
Yeah, you got the power,
Well, I was insulating an entire 3,000 square foot house, and I was not going to click that thing 400 million times by the end of it.
Yeah.
My hands are bad enough. I didn't need to truly have gorilla hands.
These do if you're stapling all day with this, you'll feel it. It's a workout.
You have got to give that baby some pull. Now, the greatest advantage I find with that is, it gets the job done, especially if you're putting up plastic, insulation, stuff like that. I'm going to throw in an extra use.
Okay.
I have a tendency to, you've worked places where you're trying to run cords, and especially for events.
Oh, yeah.
I always keep an extra little bag of rags and just take the rag, staple it into the wall, especially on a construction site where you're not worried about finishes.
Yeah.
And now you have basically a loop
that
you can tie something
around.
onto, and it'll hold something in place for you. So it is that magical,
extra set of hands.
That extra set of hands that you need every so often.
And Allan, I have to ask on behalf of the listeners, what's your preferred caliber?
He keeps turning this into a weapon.
He loves that. I like the T50 staples.
Okay.
That's what I've used the most for doing like insulation. It's got a good bite and a good depth to it. So I like the T50s. Joe's got the 5/16, I think, loaded in that one, which are a little shallower. Do all of these guns these days. Now, I remember when these things were coming out 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, some of them worked a lot better than others. But these days, the competition in the market, pretty much every brand is pretty solid.
But I
don't think I would buy one that was too cheap.
I was about to say, I don't buy one that's plastic because you're going to drop these. You will drop these, and you'll probably drop them from ladders. And this one that I've got is solid metal.
Yeah.
And if you drop it, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
It's like it's going to handle. But I do want to say one thing, because when you're buying staple, especially if you go to your big box store and you're buying a new one, you're going to go, well, there's all these different ones to choose from. And then there's all these different packs of staples. You do have to have the staple that matches your size.
Matches the job, yes.
But also, it's very easy to, if you're stapling into wood, you do not want the flat nose, you know what I'm talking about, staple, because it's just going to bend and it's not even going to go. You need the one with the points, but the boxes basically look the same, Allan. So you gotta check. And I'm not gonna pretend I haven't opened, because they will open, and just double check to make sure I'm getting the right staple. So, but it's a great thing to have. It's very useful. But if you use it wrong, it almost creates more work than it's worth. So use it. Don't be too proud to use it two-handed.
Right.
That's my thing. And this one has a nice hook. You can put it on your belt.
Yes.
And you look cool.
Oh, I even got the little Velcro belt clip for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our must-have item of the week. But we can't get out of here before we turn back to Allan here.
Oh, the humanity.
We got to find out what you did this week, Allan. So in
a nutshell, I'm going to say 1970s bad lighting.
Yeah. That's gotten us a lot of work. So, yeah.
So once again, yes, looking on a 1970s house, and the owners were, all right, look.
Wait, sorry. When you say bad lighting, are you talking about it gives, like, it's an ugly fluorescent glow, or it's just an ugly fixture, or both?
And poorly placed and poorly designed.
Okay.
And these were original fixtures to the house, original light switches, and just stuff wasn't working. The lights are in the wrong place. So, a quick trip down to the big box store for the lighting section, and You know, you can get a light fixture where you can now aim the lights where you want them. You know, there's hundreds of selections available these days, and they come in LED. You
and
can
the
get
light
'em in-
bulbs aren't going to be 150 degrees
and they're
in
not gonna
temperature
cook
when you
you
start.
and-
Right. Yeah.
So it's time to take down the old fixture, and then you discover our favorite segment, 30 Years of Stupid, because, well,
in the wiring.
oh my gosh, you look at this and you kind of go, did you let your was it somebody's cousin doing the wiring here? Because it certainly wasn't the electrician.
Did anybody inspect this project? So.
Yeah. So, and you get up in there, and of course, there's spider webs, and there's an old wasp nest, or there's, things that just absolutely horrify a homeowner. Just, I had no idea. And my quick tip is, if you are going to start changing out light fixtures, go ahead and get your drill and get you some screws, because most of the time you're going to find those little fixture caps up in there are probably loose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're always rattling around, and you can just take you a coat hanger around it and find the stud. There's one on one of those walls, and then you can drill a little hole through the side of it, stick a screw through it, and now you have a stable box.
And come up with because sometimes the box is flopping around, or it's inset too far in or too far. And then, but also I guess the older I get, the more I'm a fan of find a stable and safe way to hang the fixture in place while you're doing the wiring, because you've tried to, you've seen that out. You're holding a chandelier in your left hand, and then your right hand, you're trying to connect everything because you're 8 feet off the ground, and it gets.
I will freely admit to the coat hanger trick.
Oh, yeah.
I will drill a small hole about halfway down so I can hook one end of the coat hanger, made like an S hook, hook that into the box, hang the fixture from the other end of the S hook so I can get my wiring done, so I don't have to have 3 people standing there holding the fixture at the bottom of the ladder while you're trying to get the wiring done and get it done. So I'm going to tell everybody, take your time. Don't be afraid to do it, but just relax and get it done.
And as much as we rip on the 70s, I've made a lot of money.
Yes, I have.
All right, well, there's the music, Allan. No more time. It's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.